Arthur, once a tyrannical king who ruled the world with an iron fist, slaughtering enemies and nuking cities all for power, suddenly feels overwhelmed with guilt. Just as he starts to reflect on his atrocities, he drops dead from a heart attack. But before he can descend into the abyss, a mysterious voice offers him a second chance at life, warning him not to mess it up this time. Arthur opens his eyes to find himself in a completely new world. He's been reborn as a baby. His new parents, Reynold and Alice, are over the moon, speaking excitedly about their newborn son. Arthur, still processing his situation, can barely wrap his head around the fact that he's back to square one, trapped in a tiny baby body. He's helpless, can't speak, and involuntarily soils his diaper every few hours. It's a far cry from the almighty king he once was. But things get even weirder when he watches his father, Reynold, channel some kind of mystical energy into his fists and smash a boulder to pieces. Arthur's jaw drops. He's been through countless battles as a king, but this power is something he's never seen before. It's a huge feat, and Reynold is proud of himself. But his show-off moment goes wrong when a rock falls on his head. Alice rushes in, healing him with some sort of magic, warning Reynold to be more careful next time. Arthur is stunned again. Magic. That's a whole new level of weird. As the days pass, Arthur realizes that this world is much more dangerous than he thought. People carry weapons as a matter of survival, and Arthur knows he's going to need to learn how to fight if he ever wants to live freely again. But life as a baby isn't all bad. Arthur discovers the joys of peaceful sleep, something he never got to enjoy in his past life, where constant assassination attempts kept him on edge. Now, he can sleep without worrying about anyone trying to kill him in his sleep. Small victories, right? Months go by, and Arthur's limbs grow strong enough for him to move around on his own. He's not thrilled about being a baby, but he's starting to figure things out. One day, Arthur escapes his crib when Alice isn't looking and sneaks across the house, making it all the way to the library. There, he starts reading books about the world he's been born into. He learns that the continent he's on, Dickon, is divided into 3 kingdoms: a dwarf kingdom in vast cave cities, an elven kingdom in deep forests, and the human kingdom, where he now lives. Arthur also learns that the technology in this world is limited due to the existence of magic. People manipulate mana within their bodies to enhance their strength, agility, and defense called augmentation, or they can project it out to control phenomena called conjuring. It's all very familiar to Arthur because, in his previous life, his power was similar to the concept of mana. He figures if he can focus hard enough, he might be able to develop this power for himself. Just as Arthur starts focusing his energy, trying to unlock his potential, Alice catches him. She's worried sick because he's not in his crib, but is relieved he didn't hurt himself. She doesn't seem to notice the magic forming inside him, but she does notice he pooped his diaper again, which is an ongoing issue. 2 years later, Alice is writing in her journal, thankful that Arthur is growing strong and healthy. But there's a problem. Arthur still hasn't smiled. She's starting to get concerned. Just then, she looks outside and sees Reynold giving Arthur sword lessons. Alice, of course, flips out. She's not about to let a 2-year-old swing a dangerous weapon around. Arthur, on the other hand, is learning that it's best to stay on Alice's good side to avoid getting into trouble. He's starting to understand that, while his life as a baby is limiting, he's much safer here than in his previous life as a tyrant. To take his mind off things, Alice decides to take Arthur into town for a little outing. Arthur's excited. It's his chance to gather more information about this strange world, how the weapons look, how magic works, and what kind of people live here. He even gets to see a mage casting fire magic in person. It's an exciting day, and Arthur absorbs everything he can. By the end of the day, though, Arthur is exhausted. His baby body just can't keep up with all the action, and Alice, seeing this, decides it's time for a nap. Arthur got the short end of the stick in life, dropped into the world like a player without a starter kit, forced to grow up in an orphanage, missing out on all the love a kid should get. So, being reborn into this new world with parents like Reynold and Alice is a nice change of pace. It's not perfect, but at least he's got a shot at real care this time. One evening, Arthur falls asleep on Alice's shoulder, and she carries him to his crib, talking about how proud she is of him. She's noticed how he sneaks out of bed to read books, how excited he gets when he sees the outside world, and she figures he must have inherited his adventurous spirit from Reynold. Alice wants Arthur to live peacefully, but she knows one day he'll probably want to explore the world on his own, and she'll support him no matter what. The next day, Arthur watches Reynold practice magic outside. Reynold shows off his ability to make rocks float, which seems impressive until Arthur realizes it's pretty basic. Reynold's strength lies in augmentation, using magic to enhance his own body, not conjuring like Arthur thought. Inspired by his father, Arthur tries to train, but just as he's about to climb down, Alice swoops in to tell him it's nap time. Arthur can't speak yet, so he starts whining. But Alice is firm, no reading today, just sleep. Little does she know, Arthur has mastered the art of pouting as a weapon. His baby cuteness wins again, and she lets him have his book. Alone, Arthur practices with his mana, which he's gotten pretty good at over the last couple of years. With just a little more focus, he figures he'll be able to cast his first spell. But things go way too well, and he accidentally blows up the house. Alice and Reynold, thankfully, were outside when it happened, but Reynold's back gets badly burned in the process. They rush inside to check on Arthur, who, to their surprise, is completely unharmed. Not only that, but Arthur is the source of the explosion. At barely 3 years old, this level of magic shouldn't be possible. Yet, here he is looking proud like a little wizard in training. Unfortunately, Arthur forgets that the house is crumbling around him. When 2 beams fall toward him, he tries to run, but his baby legs fail him. Just as he's about to be squashed, Reynold and Alice rush in to save him. This is the first time anyone has ever risked their life for Arthur, and the experience leaves him stunned. Seeing Alice crying out of relief, Arthur starts crying too. He's still not used to this whole being cared for thing. In his old life, Arthur would never be doing something like this. Back then, he was a king, cold, ruthless, and allergic to mercy. A guy once tried to assassinate him. The man got caught, and the royal council immediately went full evil overlord, sentencing not just the guy, but also tossing his wife and daughter into a torture camp so horrifying it would make a horror movie director blush. The man begged Arthur to spare them, swearing they were innocent. So Arthur, in what he considered a kind gesture, killed them quickly himself. That was just a regular Monday for him. Now, his Mondays involve sparring with his dad, Reynold. Today's lesson, gauntlets. But Arthur's not feeling it. He wants a sword. Reynold humors him, buffs up his blade with mana to keep things spicy. What he doesn't expect? Arthur doing the same and slicing Reynold's sword clean in half. That's when Reynold realizes, oh no, I'm out of my depth. He heads inside to talk to Alice. Reynold suggests sending Arthur somewhere better suited to his freakish talent. Alice shuts it down. The plan was simple. Reynold teaches him to fight. Alice teaches him magic. But Reynold points out the obvious. Arthur just split a magic sword as a child. They need help. Alice agrees he's gifted terrifying, but she doesn't want him far away. The argument heats up until Arthur says, "Why don't you just come with me?" Silence. They hadn't thought of that. Suddenly, it's the perfect plan. Next day, a carriage rolls up. Traveling with them is an adventuring group Arthur remembers from when he blew up the house, the Twin Horns. First is their cheerful leader, Adam. Then Angela, who skips greetings and bear hugs Arthur. Durden, the quiet tank, saves him with a chill high five. On top of the carriage is Jasmine, striking a cool warrior pose and saying nothing. Finally, there's Helen, the sharp-eyed archer. Everyone piles in. Alice asks if Arthur's excited. He says yes, but thinks, carriages? Seriously? I used to ride in flying cars. After a long ride, they stop to set up camp, and a pack of wolves tries to crash the party. Bad idea. The twin horns wipe them out in seconds. Arthur is hooked. It's the first real fight he's seen, and now all he wants is to be strong enough to join in. Dinner is simple, just grilled wolf meat. No seasoning, no sides. Classic adventure fare. While cooking, Alice notices a cut on Reynolds' arm and moves to heal it with magic until Jasmine stops her. Healers like Alice are rare, and casting healing spells in public is basically asking to get mugged. Once Alice finishes discreetly, everyone relaxes and digs into their wolf meat dinner. That night, Adam suggests a light spar against 4-year-old Arthur. Sounds insane, but Adam's heard the kid's freakishly strong and wants to see for himself. He powers up his spear. Arthur casually does the same with his sword. The match starts. Arthur vanishes with wind magic and reappears behind Adam, only to slip and wipe out mid-strike. Toddler legs meet momentum. The fight's short but intense. Arthur ends up airborne, and the others scramble to catch him before he kisses the dirt. They all yell at Adam, who swears he wasn't going full strength. Arthur's just that strong. Then Jasmine strolls over, impressed. She wants to learn the wind boost move. Arthur hesitates. It's a trick from his past life, but her death glare says she's not asking twice. Next morning, they're back on the road. During a break, Adam gives Arthur a crash course in spears. Helen tosses in some archery tips. Feeling generous, Arthur teaches Jasmine the wind trick. Mix wind magic and mana in your feet for instant speed. She gets it first try. Later in the carriage, Arthur quietly reads while Jasmine just stares at him. The next morning, she hands him a knife. A personal gift. Jasmine doesn't do friendly, so yeah, Arthur's left an impression. They hit the road again. Arthur's reading when bam, ambush. Bandits surround the caravan. Their leader gives a disgusting order. Capture the women and kids, we'll sell 'em. The twin horns and Reynolds leap into battle. They're skilled, but the bandits just keep coming. Mid-fight, the leader knocks Reynolds hard into a carriage. He's badly hurt. Alice rushes over to help, but Reynolds stops her. If she uses healing magic, she'll become a target. Instead, he tells Arthur to run and take Alice with him. Arthur refuses until Reynolds drops the real reason. Alice is pregnant. Everything shifts. Arthur understands. When Reynolds gives the signal, Arthur grabs Alice and uses wind magic to escape. Reynolds holds the line. Adam and Jasmine cut through enemies to clear a path, protecting them. Arthur isn't running from danger. He's running for someone for the first time ever. Eventually, it looks like they're safe. They're not. A rogue bandit up on a cliff casts a wind spell. Arthur sees it too late. No time to dodge. He shoves Alice aside and takes the full hit, blasting him off the cliff. At that height, it's fatal. But Arthur doesn't go down alone. He hurls Jasmine's knife, nailing the bandit and dragging him down too. Spells fly. People scream, but Arthur's already falling, and he's not afraid. He's not thinking about pain, just about why he jumped. Not for power, not for pride. For love. His only regret, as the ground rushes up. I just wish I had a little more time to be part of that family. After taking a fall that would have killed most people, Arthur somehow drags himself out of the river and into a dark cave. Lucky him, right? Nope, inside is a massive, terrifying monster. Great. Just what he needed. Arthur tries to sneak attack it, classic move, but the monster swats him mid-air like a fly and tells him to chill. It's not evil, just lonely and wants a friend. Yeah, the last time someone said that to me, I ended up in the back of a van, so, hard pass. But Arthur's in bad shape. He needs food or he's toast. The monster, who's surprisingly helpful, offers him some weird wall fruit. Arthur isn't keen on eating random cave snacks, but when he tries to get up, his body has other plans. Something snaps, and he starts crying like a kid who just lost his ice cream. The monster tells him to quit whining. He should be dead after that fall, so maybe say thanks instead. The monster, named Sylvia, says she'll answer Arthur's questions, but only if he eats the fruit. He gives in and surprise, they're actually delicious. After stuffing his face, Arthur finally asks the big question. Are my parents okay? Sylvia can't leave the cave, but she's got a magical livestream ability. She opens a screen and shows that Arthur's parents defeated the bandits and are totally fine. Cue happy tears. Since Arthur's stuck here for a bit, he warms up to Sylvia. Turns out she's not a bloodthirsty beast, just misunderstood. Over the next few days, he rests, eats, trains with a stick like a wannabe Jedi, and even starts working on his mana. Sylvia's shocked he already has a mana core. Most kids his age are still eating glue. She decides to teach him how to gather mana while casting spells. But before that, she asks the big question. What will you do with this power? Arthur blurts out something edgy about destroying anyone who threatens his family. Sylvia's not impressed. She flicks him on the forehead so hard he falls over, then gives him a little life lesson. Sure, I could crush your skull, or I could pat you gently. Which one sounds better? Arthur, wisely, picks the gentle option. She explains that if he lets hate control him, he'll end up trapped in a life of endless violence. So, take 2. What will he do with this power? Arthur reflects on the people he loves and decides he wants to protect them. Now that's an answer Sylvia likes. Meanwhile, someone or something is tracking Sylvia. Bad news. Back when Arthur lived in his old world, he was a king, but not the fun kind. He was basically a tool used by the senators to fight their wars. He hated it. Back in the present, Sylvia begins teaching Arthur her mana technique. He learns fast and powers up like a boss. Just as he runs over to thank her, Sylvia senses danger. She eats him into a pile of rocks and tells him to stay hidden. Another monster shows up, one that looks just like Sylvia. She clearly knows him and is not thrilled to see him. He tells her to come with him. She declines. So, naturally, he starts throwing magic blasts like it's dodgeball. Arthur wants to help, but Sylvia's voice rings in his head, stay out of it. The other monster threatens her, come quietly or die. Sylvia's like, nah, I'd rather go out in a blaze of glory. Then plot twist, she reveals her true form, a dragon. She charges up a massive blast and fires it. The other monster blocks it, calling her reckless. With her body already in rough shape, using that much power might be the end of her. Sylvia knows she's probably going to die in this fight, but she's chill with it. She's lived a good life. She manages to slam the enemy into a wall, but he's not done yet. He gets back up and bombards her with energy blasts. Sylvia's taking heavy hits, but she's more worried about Arthur, who's hiding nearby. The fight is dangerously close to his location. The enemy fires one more big blast Sylvia could dodge, but it would hit Arthur, so she does the impossible, freezes time. While everything is frozen, she tells Arthur to come out. He's confused but obeys, curious about all this dragon business. Sylvia opens a portal to send him home, but because she's injured and rushed, the spell messes up and opens a portal to who knows where instead. She wanted to avoid sending Arthur into a random forest, but hey, he's tough. He'll survive. Before he goes, she asks Arthur one last time what he plans to do with his powers. Arthur answers without hesitation, to protect my family. That's all Sylvia needs to hear. As a farewell gift, she creates an egg and a feather, asking Arthur to wrap them together and keep them safe. Then she imprints her will onto his body, giving him full sleeve tattoo-style marks on his arms. Arthur is super confused, but Sylvia says he'll understand someday, even if she won't be around to explain it. She admits something else. She could have sent him home a long time ago, but she kept him around because she enjoyed his company. Now her selfishness has put him in danger, and she's sorry. Arthur tells her he sees her as family, as a mom, even. She says he already has one, so he offers grandma instead. That melts her heart. They don't have much time left. She nudges him toward the portal. Arthur hesitates and tries to get her to come with him, but she can't. So, with a sad smile, she closes the portal and sends him away. Time resumes, and Sylvia takes the full blast. She collapses. The enemy approaches, thinking she might still be alive. He's right, she is. Using her last bit of strength, she unleashes a final attack that wipes him out completely. As Arthur travels through the portal, he hears Sylvia's final message. She reminds him to use his power wisely. Yes, the world is cruel, but that's why he needs to change it one small step at a time. She also reveals that she knows about his past life as a king. She didn't agree with how he ruled before, but she believes he can do better this time as long as he doesn't let hate control him. Arthur wakes up in the forest, heart heavy but determined. He promises to honor her wish and make the world a better place. But first he's got to get out of this forest. After getting zapped into an elven forest, all Arthur wants is to go home until a little girl's scream cuts through the trees. He sprints toward the sound and spots bandits shoving a young elf girl into a carriage, planning to sell her as a slave. Watching from above, Arthur flashes back to when his own family was attacked by slavers. Rage bubbles up, but he remembers Sylvia's advice, control your rage, so he stalks the bandits silently as they ride off. By nightfall, they set up camp. When Arthur hears one of them make a disgusting comment about elves, he decides they're not making it to morning. As night falls, he notices the bandits' horned wolves wearing magic collars. He hatches a plan. Arthur riles up the wolves with rocks. When a bandit comes to quiet them, Arthur takes him out, then ambushes another. But his body's tiring, and a third target screams. Now the camp's on high alert. The leader attacks, hoping to capture a mage for extra profit. He overpowers Arthur, but Arthur blasts his knee with fire and finishes him off. One bandit remains. Arthur doesn't leave the job half done. He frees the blindfolded girl Tesha and gently assures her she's safe. When she panics at the blood, he tells her the bandits had an accident. She buys it. Tesha begs Arthur not to leave her alone. He reluctantly agrees to escort her home. Before leaving, she convinces him to free the wolves. He's skeptical, but she removes the collars and the wolves peacefully return to the forest. The next morning, Arthur and Tesha begin their journey through the forest. After a while, they stop for a break and Arthur cooks up some questionable stew. It smells bad, tastes worse, and consists entirely of meat and salt. Gordon Ramsay would be appalled. Still, food is food. As they eat, Tesha asks Arthur why he's in the forest. He explains he got separated from his family. Curious, he asks her about life in the Elven Kingdom. Turns out, her parents are always busy, so she spends most of her time with her grandpa and a servant. They keep walking, but Tesha has no clue how far her village is, making the trip hard to plan. To make things worse, the wolves she freed. Yeah, they're still following them. Arthur is really starting to regret not dealing with that problem when he had the chance. That night, Arthur offers to stay outside the tent and keep watch in case the wolves get bold. But Tesha pokes her head out and begs him to come inside. He tries to act tough and says he's fine, but she's clearly too scared to sleep alone. Inside the tent, Arthur gives in. Tesha pretends she's not scared, but also refuses to let him move more than 5 inches away. Then out of nowhere, she hits him with a bizarre question. Is it true all humans are perverts who marry a bunch of wives? Arthur is stunned. Apparently, her grandpa told her that. Arthur explains that yes, some people are like that, but most humans are totally normal. Satisfied, Tesha nods and falls asleep instantly. The next day, they continue their journey. Tesha seems a lot happier now that she's been away from danger for a few days, but she's still hilariously bad at wilderness survival. She can't even cross a shallow creek without Arthur carrying her like a sack of potatoes. Then suddenly, Arthur clutches his chest in pain. He knows something's wrong. This isn't just a cold. Tesha panics and rushes off to find herbs. While Arthur leans against a tree trying not to pass out, the wolf they freed shows up. But instead of attacking, it drops a dead pig at Arthur's feet like a bizarre delivery service and walks off. Tesha returns and guesses the wolf is thanking them. Weird, but hey, they're not complaining. That night, they roast the pig and finally enjoy a proper meal. Tesha also finds some mushrooms, which unfortunately send Arthur on a long and painful trip to the bathroom. Once he's back and barely functional, Tesha starts rambling about her grandpa's old storybooks and how she's always dreamed of visiting the human and dwarven kingdoms. Arthur dozes off mid-story, but instead of being annoyed, she just pulls a blanket over him and whispers goodnight. The next morning, Arthur's still in pain, but he brushes it off. Tesha feels guilty she can't help. To shift the mood, she shyly asks if she can call him Artie. Arthur says sure, surprising her with how chill he is about it. He even teases her, pretending to be honored that Lady Tesha considers him a friend. She calls him a dork. Arthur laughs, reminding her she begged him to stay close every night. Tesha denies it, saying that was totally different. But joking aside, Arthur realizes something: Tesha might actually be his first real friend. Back in his old world, people feared him. But now, he's found someone who genuinely cares. Just then, Tesha calls him over. She's found something. Arthur expects another weird mushroom, but instead, they're standing in front of a massive tree with a glowing portal in the trunk. "This is the entrance to my village," she says. The second Arthur steps into the elf village, he's instantly surrounded by angry guards with swords at his neck. He looks to Tesha, hoping she'll back him up, but she just stares at him like he's a stranger. Arthur starts thinking she betrayed him, just like everyone else in his past life. Classic trust issues. Right when it looks like they're going to chop off his head, Tesha finally speaks up and tells them to stop. "Thanks for the timely help, Tess." One guard accuses Arthur of brainwashing her, but Tess defends him, saying he saved her life. Still, they don't believe her, until an old man steps in. This old man, Virian, Tesha's grandpa and the former elf king. Thankfully, he's got more brain cells than the others and believes Arthur. He even apologizes for the rough welcome. Arthur is relieved, until he finds out Tesha's actually a princess. Yup. She somehow forgot to mention that during their whole journey together. Then her royal parents show up. Her mom's nice, but her dad, not so much. He takes one look at Arthur and instantly wants him executed. Luckily, everyone's too scared of Grandpa Virian to follow through. After some arguing, Tesha demands Arthur be treated like a guest, and her dad finally caves because arguing with your daughter is scarier than war, apparently. Virian pulls Arthur aside and says he wants a word with him later. Arthur agrees, though he's kind of nervous because Virian feels insanely powerful. Tesha gives Arthur a tour, and he's blown away by the elf kingdom. But everyone stares at him like he's an alien. No one says anything rude though, because hey, he's royalty's guest now. Still, Arthur wonders why Tesha hesitated to help him earlier. Meanwhile, the weird pain in his chest is getting worse by the day. At the castle, Tesha tells the staff to treat Arthur with respect. Then she invites him to hang out, but Arthur says he should probably talk to her parents first, explain the whole saving their daughter from slavers thing. The royal family sits down for what basically becomes a tea party. The king, Alduin, introduces himself, as does his wife Muriel and Grandpa Virian. Arthur respectfully introduces himself as just a humble human kid from Sapin. When they ask what happened, Arthur tells the whole story minus the part with the dragon lady, Sylvia. When he mentions killing the slave traders, one guard flips out, thinking there's no way a kid could do that. Virian shuts him up with a death glare. Arthur then politely asks if they can help him get home. Alduin is furious that a human dares to ask for help, but he also knows Tesha will throw a fit if he refuses, so he agrees kind of. There's a magic gate that leads to Sapin, but it only opens every 7 years. The last time was 2 years ago, so Arthur would have to wait 5 whole years. That doesn't sit well with anyone. So, Alduin says he'll send soldiers to escort Arthur back instead, but tomorrow. Arthur thanks him, but the pain in his chest is getting seriously bad, and Virion definitely notices something's off. Later, Arthur is chilling in the bath, trying not to die. He steps out onto the balcony to get some air and spots Tesha with her parents above. It makes him think about his own parents, Reynold and Alice. He has no idea if they survived the bandit attack, but he's hopeful. Tesha notices him looking down and senses he's sad. After finishing her reunion, she goes to talk to him. She apologizes for how her dad treated him, but Arthur says he gets it. Decades of war between humans and elves, of course her dad doesn't trust a human with his daughter. Thinking about Tesha's reunion with her parents makes Arthur realize just how far he is from his own. He starts to worry they might not even be happy to see him again. After all, the whole reason they went on this trip was for his sake. What if they blame him for everything? What if they think it's his fault they got separated? He blames himself too for not being strong enough to protect them during the bandit attack. But before he can spiral further, Tesha grabs his face and literally shakes those thoughts out of his head. She doesn't know his parents personally, but if they're anything like hers, she's sure they'll be overjoyed to see him alive. No blame, just hugs. Suddenly, the corridor lights up with a swarm of glowing fireflies. Surrounded by their warm light, Arthur tries to recall his parents' faces, their smiles. Since his rebirth, they've never once shown him anything but love. So why was he doubting them now? Oh right, he's been letting his past life trauma mess with his head again. He even assumed Tesha betrayed him earlier. But looking at her now, all he sees is an innocent girl who'd never harm her friend. Just then, Arthur senses danger. Something's flying straight at Tesha. He reacts instantly, catches it mid-air and powers up to attack whoever dared target her. But surprise, the attacker is none other than Virion. Arthur's stunned. Why would Tesha's grandfather do something like this? Virion quickly clears things up. The projectile was just a firefly, harmless. He never meant to hurt Tesha. In fact, he just wanted to test if Arthur was as strong as he claimed. Turns out, Arthur passed the test with flying colors. Tesha rushes over and scolds her grandpa for playing around. But that's not why Virion's here. Earlier, he noticed something interesting about Arthur. So, he proposes a sparring match to see what the boy's really made of. He conjures a wooden sword for Arthur and lifts Tesha to safety before they begin. Arthur charges in, using mana to boost his speed, but Virion's way too fast. Even when Arthur thinks he's found an opening, Virion smashes the sword with his bare palm. A piece flies toward Tesha, but Arthur heroically throws the broken handle to deflect it. Now unarmed, Arthur keeps fighting using just his mana. But Virion's power is on another level. Still, Arthur doesn't back down. He gets knocked back but charges in again and lands a hit right on Virion's forehead. It barely does any damage, but Virion is seriously impressed that Arthur managed to get through his defense at all. Just as they're about to go another round, Tesha sneaks up and pinches her grandpa's butt to make him stop. Arthur says it's fine. Honestly, he feels honored that someone as strong as Virion wanted to duel him. Virion then drops a bombshell. He wants to take Arthur in as his disciple. Arthur is caught off guard. Was this a joke? Nope, Virion's dead serious. But Arthur hesitates. He hasn't even told his parents he's alive yet. No problem, Virion has a solution. He says there's a way Arthur can contact his parents right now. Before Arthur can ask how, the sharp pain in his chest hits him again. Virion seems to know what's going on. He tells Arthur that he's inherited a beast will, and if he doesn't become Virion's disciple, that beast will is going to kill him. After hearing such awful news, Arthur tries to sleep, but his mind won't shut off. The fear of dying and being away from his family gives him a horrible nightmare complete with a creepy sleep paralysis demon. Suddenly, he hears someone calling his name. He opens his eyes and sees Tesha sitting on top of him, clearly frustrated. She's been trying to wake him up, but he keeps mumbling about monsters in his sleep. Annoyed, she tells him to hurry because Virion is already waiting outside. Arthur gets up and starts changing. Tesha casually asks if he's really planning to stay here and become her grandpa's student. Arthur hasn't made up his mind. It all depends on whether Virion can help him contact his family. As long as he can let them know he's alive, he'll be at peace. Once he's dressed, he and Tesha head downstairs. But the moment they open the door, they hear Aldwin arguing with Virion. Aldwin can't stand the idea of Arthur, a human living in the Elf Kingdom. It goes against centuries of elven traditions. But Virion couldn't care less. He likes Arthur and has already decided to make him his student. End of story. Tesha tries to back Arthur up, but Aldwin doesn't want to hear it. She's clearly biased. Virion doesn't want to hear Aldwin either and tells the kids to hop into the carriage, they've got somewhere to be. On the long ride, Tesha ends up dozing off. Arthur asks Virion, now calling him Grandpa, how much longer it'll take. Virion laughs, saying if Arthur ends up staying, he'll be like family anyway. He's actually happy that Tesha finally has a friend. Being an only child and heir to the throne means most kids avoid her. And the ones who didn't, they broke her trust, so she has a hard time opening up. But with Arthur, she genuinely smiles. Arthur has trust issues too, but when he looks at Virion, he sees a kind, sincere grandpa. He feels like he can trust him. They finally arrive. Arthur wakes Tesha up, and they step out to meet this mysterious person. Virion bangs on a door, shouting for someone named Rhiannia to come out. He leans in to listen and promptly gets smacked in the face when the door flies open. Rhiannia turns out to be a powerful mage. Virion believes she can help Arthur contact his family. Once inside, Arthur is confused. It just looks like a regular house, and there's a random bucket of water on the table. Rhiannia explains she's a seer. She can look into people's past and future. When she briefly reads Arthur's past, she finds strange gaps, parts she can't see. Arthur tells her he's not here for a history check. He just wants to let his family know he's okay. She pushes the bucket in front of him and tells him to think of his parents clearly. She works her magic, and suddenly Arthur starts seeing visions of his mom and dad. His mother, Alice, is making stew, but it's too much food for just the two of them. It's Arthur's favorite, and they miss him terribly. Reynold, his dad, blamed himself for Arthur's disappearance so badly he almost turned to drinking. But with Alice pregnant, he had to keep going. They moved to the city, got a house, and tried to carry on, but nothing could fill the hole Arthur left behind. Then they hear Arthur's voice. They can't see him and worry he's a ghost. Arthur quickly explains he's alive and living in the Elf Kingdom. Thanks to a friend, he's using a special kind of magic to talk to them. He wants to come home, but his body's not ready yet. He's not strong enough to survive. Still, he promises to return someday. He tells them not to blame themselves. It was his choice to make, and he'd do it again if it meant protecting them. Alice and Reynold are overwhelmed with joy. Saying goodbye again is hard, and Arthur cries. But he's glad he got to speak with them. Now, he's more determined than ever. He has to grow stronger, so he never makes them worry again. So, he asks Virion to officially make him his disciple. All that's left is getting Aldwin to agree to let Arthur stay. Aldwin is still stubborn. He can't stand humans. But Tesha hits him with the truth. Arthur saved her life. If he kicks Arthur out now, he'll just look like an ungrateful jerk. Aldwin's still worried that Arthur's presence in the Elf Kingdom could stir up drama, but Virion's already ahead of him. He tells Aldwin to just announce Arthur as his new disciple. Problem solved. No one would dare question Virion's decision. With that, Arthur officially gets the green light to live in the royal palace. After the meeting, Aldwin approaches Arthur and apologizes for being rude earlier. He admits he's not a big fan of humans, but Arthur saved his daughter, so that earns him a pass and even a spot in the family. Arthur is surprised by this sudden change of heart, but with Virion and Tesha backing him up, it starts to make sense. Arthur humbly accepts the welcome, but Tesha isn't done yet. If Arthur is truly part of the family, then he should be allowed to go outside and have fun with her. Aldwin agrees, and off they go. Tesha drags Arthur into town, showing him all the cool places. She's especially excited about a snack shop that sells out fast, so she pulls him along at lightning speed. While rushing, Arthur accidentally bumps into a snobby elf kid. The kid loses it, yelling at Arthur about dirty human germs. Arthur's tempted to throw hands, but Tesha tells him not to waste energy on jerks. That is, until the brat, Farith, insults Arthur and tells Tesha she should hang out with better people like him. Arthur decides to mess with him and intentionally butchers his name, calling him Phoebitch. Farith gets triggered and demands a duel to defend his family's honor. Arthur is baffled. Where he's from, duels mean death matches. But the nearby adults are just watching with amused expressions, so it's clearly not that serious. Tesha tries to stop the fight by reminding Farith that Arthur is Virian's disciple, and picking a fight with him is basically a suicide mission. But Farith is too full of himself to back down. He even says not fighting would dishonor Virian's name. Arthur shrugs and agrees. The duel begins. Farith charges in with a stick, full of confidence. That lasts about 2 seconds until Arthur decks him in the face. Down goes Farith, completely knocked out. His buddies rush over, and Tesha, who saw this outcome coming from a mile away, grabs Arthur's hand and drags him away. They've still got a full playdate to finish. The two spend the whole day hanging out, exploring the town, and shopping. Later, they sit on a balcony and chat. Tesha asks when Arthur's training with Virian starts. Arthur says it begins tomorrow, but he's clearly deep in thought. He remembers what Virian told him. The training will be hell. Imagine being dunked in boiling tar, every day, for years, alone, no family around. But Arthur's ready. He said yes without hesitation. No matter how painful it is, he's determined to get stronger and build the future he wants. Tesha promises to work hard too so she won't fall behind. But for now, she just wants to enjoy the rest of their day. And what better way to do that than grabbing more food? A few years had flown by since Arthur and Tesha started training under Grandpa Virian's grumpy but wise guidance. Over time, they'd become close like sparring partners who never missed a chance to one-up each other. Today was no different. After an intense match, Tesha flopped down, exhausted. Seizing the quiet moment, Virian shifted his attention to Liam, giving him a crash course in basic magic. Once your mana stabilizes, you can tap into elemental magic: water, wind, fire, earth. But this world has its quirks. Elves, like Tesha, excel at wind, are decent at water and earth, but hopeless with fire. Dwarves, masters of fire and earth, but clueless with wind. Humans, a mixed bag capable of all elements, but with wildly varying results. Tesha, ever the overachiever, threw Virian a look. If mana's such a big deal, why hasn't Arthur touched his core yet? She teased. Virian sighed, clearly waiting for this. Because if he tries now, his chest might explode. Okay, maybe he didn't say it exactly like that, but close. Arthur had a beast will inside him, which made his body and mana core clash. Until he rebooted his core, no mana for him. Tesha smirked. So, I'm technically stronger than you right now, huh? Arthur shot back. Well, yeah, you cheat with mana in every attack. Tesha had awakened her mana at 9, a prodigy even among elves. Arthur, still stuck in the no-mana zone, training with sheer grit. But that was about to change. Virian decided Arthur was finally ready to face his beast will. Arthur, of course, was all in. Let's do this. He sat down, Virian began the process, and things escalated fast. Arthur screamed like his soul was being ripped out, and a surge of energy blasted Virian and Tesha across the field. The good news? It worked. The bad news? Arthur passed out cold. They dragged him back to the castle. When he woke up, Virian was already waiting. You alive, kid? Yeah, I guess. Good. So, anything weird about that beast will? Arthur had planned to keep his dragon encounters secret, but after the show he'd put on, there was no point. "It's from a dragon." Virion nearly fell over. "You what?" He told Arthur to keep it quiet. Dragons weren't exactly low-key. If word got out, Arthur would be a walking target. And as if things weren't moving fast enough, Arthur learned he'd be heading home sooner than planned. A cultural exchange event was happening in 4 months, and the portals to Xyrus City would open early. Tesha was already getting the same news from her parents. That night, Arthur lay in bed, staring at the dragon egg Sylvia had left him, already dreading saying goodbye to Tesha. But fate wasn't done with him yet. Crack. The egg hatched in his hands. Out popped the tiniest, cutest dragon he'd ever seen. For a moment, Arthur thought, maybe this will be easy. Then it bit him. Arthur yelped, dropping the little beast, but instead of bite marks, a glowing crest appeared on his arm, bonding him to the baby dragon. Now, he could sense its thoughts, which mostly screamed, "Feed me, puny human." Accepting his new role as Dragon Dad, Arthur named her Sylvie, after her mother. Satisfied, he went back to sleep, hoping that was the last surprise of the night. But a few hours later, surprise walked right through his bedroom door, literally. Tesha barged in, planning to talk about Arthur leaving in 4 months. But the moment she pulled back his blanket, all serious thoughts flew out the window. There, snuggled up next to Arthur, was baby Sylvie. Arthur woke up with a jolt, thinking the world was ending or something. But when he saw Tesha making heart eyes at Sylvie, he realized it was just her losing her mind over the baby dragon. He rolled over and went right back to sleep, leaving Tesha to squeal over Sylvie. Later that day, Arthur and Tesha headed to the training grounds for their lesson with Virion. Tesha, still obsessed, tried everything to win over Sylvie. But after nearly being smothered earlier, Sylvie kept her distance, perched safely on Arthur's head like a smug crown. When they found Virion, he nearly had a heart attack. "A D-dragon?" he stammered, staring at Sylvie like she was a ghost. While Tesha kept pestering Sylvie, Arthur explained she'd hatched after his beast will awakening. He was worried dragons weren't exactly low-key pets, but Virion waved it off. "Relax, kid. Dragons are myths now. Just tell people she's an exotic beast. No one'll question it." With that settled, Virion got back to his favorite pastime, turning training into torture. Time to train both your beast and Manticore. Best method? Real combat. He transformed on the spot, flexing his Shadow Panther form, and told Arthur his training started now. Arthur braced himself, but Virion vanished after 1 step. Arthur couldn't see, hear, or sense him. After a hopeless attempt, he gave up. Virion popped up behind him, smug as ever. Turns out, Virion's beast will let him erase all sound and movement by controlling wind cool, but super mana hungry. Honestly, he just wanted to show off. He finally summoned a sword and let Arthur train for real. Days later, Arthur was crushing his beast while training, no more chest pain, and his body kept up with Virion's tricks. Between all the training, he and Tesha still squeezed in their not-a-date hangouts. One day, during one of these hangouts, Arthur bumped into a fancy elf Faerith. Problem was, Arthur didn't remember him. Faerith, ever the drama king, was offended and demanded a rematch. It ended fast. Faerith hit the ground in seconds, his friends speechless. Tesha reminded Arthur, "That's the kid who challenged you a few years ago." "Oh, right," Arthur laughed, helping him up. Faerith finally gave up on picking fights. Arthur asked if they were joining the cultural exchange event. Faerith bragged about being specially chosen, but yeah, all noble brats got in. Nothing special. Arthur then asked Tesha if she'd be going, but Faerith butted in, mocking that the royal family wouldn't risk their helpless princess getting kidnapped again. Big mistake. Tesha socked him right in the face, sending him flying. Arthur, knowing this would get messy, grabbed her hand and dragged her away before a crowd gathered. Once they were clear, Arthur scolded her. You can't just punch people. You're a princess. Tesher rolled her eyes. Faerith was still breathing, wasn't he? But Arthur sounded just like her dad, which ticked her off. She called him an old man and stormed off in tears. Feeling guilty that night, Arthur pulled a classic Arthur move, snuck up to her window and invited her to sneak out and explore the forest. Anything to cheer up the moody princess. Tesha agreed, but halfway through the woods, she asked, "Is this really okay?" Arthur grinned. "If kidnappers show up, we'll just beat them up. Worth it for the stars, right?" Tesha, wobbling with sleep, insisted she was fine. Arthur told her to just sleep, but she stubbornly refused. This might be their last night together. Too bad her brain didn't get the memo. She started seeing monsters in the trees. Arthur laughed, teasing her for still being scared of ghosts. "I'm not scared. I'm cold," she snapped, aggressively feeding the fire. Trying to stay awake, she asked about the human kingdom. Arthur admitted he didn't know much. He'd never even been there. "I wish you could just stay here forever," Tesha whispered. Arthur wished that too, but he couldn't give up seeing his family. Before he could say more, she was already asleep. Smiling, Arthur let her be and called it a night. When it was time to leave, Virion gifted Arthur a special compass to find his way back. Arthur thanked him but noticed Tesha was missing. She couldn't bear to watch him go. As the portal opened, Arthur was about to step through when he heard his name. Tesha ran toward him, tripped, and fell. Arthur rushed over, helping her up as she tearfully rambled that he'd better take care of himself or she'd never forgive him. Arthur hugged her tightly. "I'm gonna miss you too, Tesha. A lot." Then, he stepped through the portal. Arthur finally arrives in the city of Cyrus and gets a warm reunion with his parents, Alice and Reynold. But surprise, he now has a little sister named Eleanor, who's been hearing legendary bedtime stories about him for years and is beyond thrilled to meet the real deal. As soon as they step inside, Alice bombards Arthur with motherly concern. Last time they talked, he said he was sick, so she wants to know if he's better. Arthur assures her he's fine, but he's got a lot to talk about. So, he shares most of his adventure, minus a few details. Like, for example, the part about meeting a magical girl and bonding with a mystical beast. Instead, he tells them he met Tesha and lived with the elves to get cured. When asked how he got sick in the first place, he lies a little and says it happened because he awakened his mana too early. He hates lying to his parents, but figures it's safer than telling them the whole Beastwill story. Reynold then spots Sylvie, Arthur's adorable dragon companion, and asks where she came from. Arthur quickly makes something up. "Oh, I found her in a Mana Beast's cave. Took her in. She's my pet now." Eleanor is instantly obsessed with Sylvie, so that's one win. Reynold's not done though. He casually asks Arthur what stage his mana core is at. Alice scolds him. "He just got back. Do you have to turn it into a flex-off?" But Reynold insists he's just curious. Arthur agrees to answer, but first wants to know what Reynold does for a living to afford this fancy house. Turns out, Reynold is a security instructor at the famous Xyrus auction house, and his mana core is at dark orange, which is pretty high up the ladder. Mana cores go from black to white. Arthur's impressed. Reynold, proud of himself, asks Arthur what stage he's at. Arthur says he's at light red. Reynold curses on the spot, realizing his son is this close to surpassing him. Unfortunately, he forgets little Eleanor is right there, so now she's casually dropping F-bombs too. Oops. Refusing to be one-upped in his own home, Reynold challenges Arthur to a sparring match in the garden. But just before they head out, Reynold's boss Vincent Helstia walks in, asking if Reynold's son is back. Reynold introduces Arthur, and Vincent, along with his wife Tabitha, are delighted to finally meet the kid they've heard so much about. They also introduce their daughter, Lilia. She's shy at first, until she sees Sylvie. Instantly smitten, she asks to pet her, and Arthur gives the green light. Sylvie now has another fan. Reynold reminds Arthur that Vincent technically owns the house, so maybe they should ask before breaking stuff. Vincent gets nervous hearing break and sparring in the same sentence, and those fears come true when he learns that yes, a full-on magic duel is about to happen in his garden. Everyone heads outside for the match. Vincent still can't believe a kid Arthur's age could really be at light red stage, but Alice says Arthur has always been a fast learner. And besides, what would he even gain by lying? Truth is, Arthur could have already reached orange stage years ago, but his beast will training didn't allow him to level up his mana. So now, he's got some tricks to show. Arthur and Reynold trade blows, and while Reynold still has more brute strength, Arthur's no pushover. Eventually, Reynold decides to level up and lights his fist on fire literally. He warns Arthur he can still back out. See, all mages have an elemental mana they're compatible with. Conjurers can use elements easily, but augmenters like Reynold, not so much unless they're elite, which he is. Arthur isn't phased. He channels mana into his arms and the two clash again. Then comes Arthur's trump card, Lightning Magic. Crackling sparks fly as Arthur powers up with a higher form of fire. And then just because he can, he pulls water out of the fountain and attacks Reynold from behind. Reynold blocks it, but he's stunned. Fire and water magic. At the same time, his boy's a prodigy. He hugs Arthur like a proud dad and asks where he learned that. Arthur explains he only recently figured out lightning magic and still doesn't have it under full control, but he's getting there. Elena rushes onto the field to check on them. Meanwhile, Vincent and Tabitha just stand there like, did this kid just break physics? Later that evening, they all sit down for dinner. Vincent won't stop talking about how amazing Arthur is. Reynold says he's known Arthur was special since he awakened his mana at the age of 3. Vincent's jaw hits the floor. Most geniuses awaken at 8, and none of them blow up the house doing it. They all laugh, maybe a bit too hard. Reynold falls out of his chair. Vincent then brings up the idea of Arthur attending Xyrus Academy, the elite school for talented mages. Reynold hadn't even thought about it. Those schools are for the rich and powerful, but Tabitha agrees, and they offer to sponsor Arthur. Alice is hesitant. They've already helped the family so much, and Arthur is only 8. The school's age limit is 10. Vincent waves that off. He knows the director and can get Arthur in early. Before they go any further, Arthur politely asks if maybe they should ask him what he wants. He literally just got home. Can he enjoy being with his family for like 1 day? He excuses himself from the table and starts wandering through the halls. Lilia finds him and warns that he's heading toward the basement. Rookie mistake. She leads him to the servants' break room instead, where she often hangs out when she needs to unwind. Everyone already knows who Arthur is. He did scorch the garden earlier. They're not mad though. Lilia grabs some leftover duck, but the cook warns her too much stress snacking lately. A maid tells Arthur that Lilia's been under pressure from non-stop magic lessons. She wants to awaken as a mage, but everyone needs a break. That night, Arthur spends some quiet time with his parents. He's changed, but to them, he's still their son, and they'd love him no matter what. Before bed, Reynold brings up the academy again. He means well, but it's Arthur's decision. The next morning, Arthur's greeted by the twin horns. Angela hugs the life out of him, and Jasmine gives him a once-over before hugging him too, relieved he's okay. They catch up, and Arthur learns the group worked in Estatine before returning to the capital. Their stories make Arthur realize how little he knows about the world. Adventuring could change that, but it would mean leaving his family behind again. And he's not sure he's ready for that. A few days later, Arthur is back in his room training with his beast Will. He makes a crazy discovery: it can freeze time. Well, only for a few seconds, and it drains him like a phone on 1% battery. He starts wondering if all this effort is even worth it, but then remembers why he's doing it: to protect the people he loves. So, he keeps at it. But first Sylvie stinks. Like, really bad. So Arthur grabs her for an emergency bath session. Sylvie isn't thrilled, but Arthur isn't about to let a smelly beast ruin the vibes in this fancy mansion. Speaking of which, since the Helstia family lives in such luxury, Arthur figures their auction house must be doing pretty well. But he still doesn't know much about them. After scrubbing Sylvie clean, Arthur's family bursts in and tells him he needs a cleanup too. He hadn't really cared about his looks while in the Elf Kingdom, so his mom takes him to her favorite hairdresser. They promise to make him look fabulous. The result? Slightly shorter hair. Still looks like Arthur, just cooler now. Curious, he asks why everyone suddenly cares about how he looks. Tabitha explains she's planning to take him to tour their auction house, but it's so fancy even royalty visits. No way she's letting him go in looking like a cave boy. Tabitha offers to show Arthur around the city, and Ellie tags along, excited to hang out with her big bro. Lilia feels a bit left out. She used to be Ellie's go-to, but she joins them anyway. They're all having a good time playing ring toss on a statue when a group of snotty students from Xyrus Academy randomly throws a ring at Arthur's head and walks away like it's nothing. Arthur's confused. Lilia explains that everyone treats those students like royalty just because of their uniforms. Arthur shrugs it off until they pass a store that sells beast cores. Arthur's surprised he didn't even know you could buy beast cores. Turns out it's common in the human kingdom. Tabitha explains that cores can boost a mage's strength, and ones with beast wills can cost up to 100 gold coins, enough for Arthur's family to live comfortably for 250 years. Arthur's not too interested since he already has Sylvie's core, but Lilia asks if she can get one. Tabitha immediately shuts it down. Buying a core won't magically awaken her powers, and it's too pricey for a kid. Lilia clearly isn't happy, and Arthur picks up on it. He's about to ask her what's wrong when he realizes she's gone. Even though Tabitha was right next to her, she didn't notice her daughter walk off. Arthur follows and finds Lilia in a magic shop, eyeing a cheap beast core she can afford. He warns her it might not work, but Lilia is desperate to try. She reaches for the core, but Arthur stops her. She gets frustrated. Easy for him to say, Mr. Prodigy. In the chaos, she accidentally bumps into one of those Xyrus brats again. They overreact because of course they do, and it looks like a fight is about to break out. The store owner peeks out, but nopes back into his office the moment he sees the Xyrus uniforms. Arthur's ready to go full beast mode, but before things get messy, Tabitha and Alice arrive and shut things down fast. The boys don't take her seriously until they find out Lilia is part of the Helstia family. Suddenly, they panic. The Helstias are major donors to the academy, and if word gets out, they're so expelled. The boys retreat, not so politely calling Lilia a spoiled rich kid on the way out. Back home, they tell Vincent what happened. He's horrified. Arthur nearly threw hands with Xyrus students. Tabitha explains she stepped in before Arthur turned them into toast. Lilia apologizes for causing trouble, but Vincent reassures her she did nothing wrong. In fact, with how much he's donated to the academy, this won't affect her chances of enrolling. But Lilia misunderstands. She thinks Vincent wants Arthur to enroll instead of her. Despite her parents' reassurances, she's stuck in her head, convinced they think she's a failure. She yells that she hates them and runs off. Later, Arthur finds her alone and sad. She apologizes for being jealous. Ever since Arthur showed off his magic, she's felt invisible. Arthur gently tells her she's not a disappointment. Her parents are proud of her. Just because Arthur's an outlier doesn't mean she's falling behind. Lilia finally realizes she was being too hard on herself. Her dad just wants her to be happy, not stressed. But she also knows people will always assume she got into the academy because of her dad's money, so she wants to prove herself. Arthur offers to help. He knows a way to awaken her mana, but first he plays a little prank. A few hours later, Arthur tells Vincent and Tabitha that Lilia left to go train. They're stunned. He hands them a letter from Lilia saying she's going to train hard and won't return until she becomes a great mage. Vincent collapses in guilt, thinking it's all his fault for making her think magic is the only way to be happy. But then Arthur says, "Okay, Lilia, you can come out now." She steps out from behind the door surprised. It was all a trick to show her that her parents love her no matter what. Vincent apologizes for pressuring her. She doesn't have to be a mage. But Lilia says she still wants to on her terms. Arthur smiles and decides to awaken her mana, and while he's at it, he helps Ellie too. He has them sit down, close their eyes, and breathe slowly to feel the flow of mana. Ellie senses it right away. Lilia struggles, but Arthur places his hand on their backs and stimulates their mana. Suddenly, Lilia sees glowing lights. She did it. Her magic has finally awakened. Later on, Arthur and his family are invited to the super fancy Helstia auction house. The place is massive, like, "We definitely don't belong here" levels of fancy. Alice starts to panic, thinking she's underdressed for such a high-class event. But Tabitha tells her to relax and just enjoy the night. This isn't just any auction, it's Temag's auction, where adventurers and nobles come to throw ridiculous amounts of money at rare items collected by Vincent. Security is tighter than a dragon's wallet, and Reynold is the one keeping everything under control. The event officially kicks off with Vincent stepping on stage to announce tonight's VIP guests, the royal family of Sapin King Brian, Queen Priscilla, and their kids, Prince Curtis and Princess Catherine. The crowd goes wild, so Arthur figures they must be decent rulers if people cheer that loud. With royalty in the room, the guards are on full alert. Vincent opens the bidding with a lightning-infused sword made by a famous craftsman. Starting bid, 50 gold. Someone immediately goes 51 like it's eBay. As the bids go up, Arthur wonders if he could add elements to weapons too, definitely something to test later. Then Vincent brings out a pair of mysterious masks, which grab Arthur's attention, until he realizes Sylvia's missing. He assumed she was off playing with the other kids, but nope, Ellie and Lilia are napping. Time to investigate. Meanwhile, Sylvia's casually strolling through the halls like she owns the place when suddenly a royal mage stops her. Uh-oh. Back on stage, a rank lion cub is revealed. Prince Curtis instantly says he wants it, and the king drops a cool 1,000 gold coins to buy it on the spot. No one even tries to outbid him, obviously. Just then, Arthur hears Sylvia scream. He rushes over and finds the same royal mage sizing her up like she's an auction item. Arthur calmly tells him Sylvie's his mana beast and asks the mage to let her go. The mage looks disappointed. He thought she was for sale. But then the mage gets bold. He says he wants a mana beast and demands Arthur hand her over. Arthur gives him the "Are you serious right now?" face. The mage tries to flex his status and blasts fire at Arthur, saying this is an order from a royal mage. Arthur is done being polite. The mage threatens his family, and that's where Arthur draws the line. He unleashes murderous intent so powerful it shatters all the windows in the auction house. People with mana can barely stay standing. Everyone else, out cold. Chaos erupts. The king thinks they've been attacked. Guards scramble, and Reynold orders an evacuation while Arthur realizes, oops, maybe that was a bit much. Later, the king privately calls Reynold in for a royal scolding. Reynold apologizes for the security fail, but before things get ugly, the same mage, his name is Sebastian, speaks up, asking the king to go easy on Reynold, but only because he still wants Sylvie. The king agrees and asks Reynold to hand over Sylvie as a thank you to Sebastian. Arthur tries to object, but Alice stops him. It's rude to interrupt a king. Reynold refuses. Sylvie belongs to Arthur, not him. So now the king asks Arthur directly. Arthur politely says no. The king then offers to trade him the lion cub for Sylvie. Arthur still says no, Sylvie isn't up for trade. The king, getting annoyed, asks a third time. Arthur, now losing patience, hits him with a savage comeback. Would you sell your children if someone asked 3 times? Oof. The king is stunned. The guards rush Arthur, but he knocks them out with a punch each. Sebastian loses it and fires a deadly spell at Arthur, who then activates his trump card, Static World. Time freezes. Only Arthur and Sebastian can move now. Sebastian is confused and scared. Arthur calmly walks over, snaps his leg, and delivers a warning. Next time, it won't just be a leg. Time resumes. Arthur passes out from the effort. Later, he wakes up in bed with a pounding headache, but no prison sentence, so that's a win. Alice checks on him and says she took care of him while he was out. To cheer him up, they go shopping. Arthur finds a hairpin for Ellie, but he's broke. Alice buys it for him and reveals she makes luxury items for nobles, so money's not an issue. When they get home, Reynold is arguing with a messenger. Turns out the king sent hush money and an apology for the minor incident. Arthur's like, getting attacked by knights and a royal mage is minor. The messenger says the knights were fired and Sebastian got what he deserved. His leg, still broken. But no one saw Arthur do it, so they think Sebastian just messed up his own spell. Works for Arthur. Before leaving, the messenger warns Arthur to be more respectful around powerful people. Not everyone is as chill as King Brian. After the messenger leaves, Reynold hands all the hush money to Arthur, saying, "You earned it." Arthur realizes something big. In this life, he may not be royalty, but if he wants to stand up to kings, he needs more than power, he needs influence. So the next morning, he pays a visit to Dean Goodsky at the Magic Academy. End of episode 10. Don't forget to subscribe. You know Arthur is not done causing royal headaches. She's basically magical royalty, and not many get a private audience with her. She's heard good things about Arthur from Vincent, but she doesn't trust gossip. So, she tests him. First, she tries to crush him with her overwhelming magical presence. Arthur stands firm, though he admits she's terrifying. Arthur shows off his skills launching rocks with wind magic, conjuring fire kunai, even charging in for a punch. But Goodsky barely lifts a finger and sends him flying with a gust of wind. It's clear Arthur's still miles behind. But she's not disappointed. She tells him he's talented, just a little too confident for his own good. Then comes the final test, survive her next attack. She unleashes a blast of sound magic so strong it cracks rocks. Arthur barely hangs on, but he stays standing. Impressed, Goodsky considers taking him as her student. But Arthur has a few conditions. He's not here to be a star pupil, he wants protection for his loved ones. If she promises to keep his family safe, he'll enroll. Goodsky finds his boldness refreshing and agrees, but Arthur adds one more twist. He won't join until he's of age 3 years from now. Why? He wants to live, explore, and become an adventurer. Goodsky, a bit stunned, asks if he's told his parents. Not yet. When he finally does, Alice immediately says no. She just got him back after years, no way she's letting him run off again. Reynold tries to reason with her, suggesting a guardian might help. Still, Alice says no. Arthur then promises he'll visit every few months and won't be gone for years. That softens her a bit. Arthur says he'll leave in a month or two, not now. He wants to travel, learn, and test his skills in the real world. Eventually, Alice agrees on one condition: no more secrets. Arthur promises, though he knows he can't keep all of them. Reynold starts looking for a guardian. His friends, the Twin Horns, offer help for free. Adam flat out refuses. Babysitting isn't his thing, and he jokes that Arthur might kill him in his sleep. The others agree. Adam's annoying enough to make it happen. Then Jasmine, surprisingly, volunteers. Even though she hates protection jobs, she's willing to do it for Arthur. She's powerful and gets along with him well, so she's perfect for the role. Next, Arthur wants to get a proper sword for the adventurer test. He visits Vincent's warehouse, but hours of searching yield nothing. Every sword is too big or just wrong. Then Sylvie, his dragon companion, leads him to what looks like a stick. Weird choice, but Arthur picks it up and it's strangely heavy. Turns out, it's a hidden blade. He activates it with mana, and boom, runes glow. The sword unsheathes, and it's impressive. Too heavy at first, but then the sword magically adjusts to his size. Perfect fit. He's amazed he's used countless swords before, but never one that literally chose him. When Vincent and the others show up, Arthur pretends to pick a random sword instead, not wanting to draw attention to his special find. Vincent notices the stick and asks about it, but Arthur plays dumb. Vincent checks the inventory. Turns out some old man threw it at James one day and said no one was worthy of it. Everyone assumed it was just a fancy stick. Vincent lets Arthur keep it. In the weeks that follow, Arthur spends time with loved ones, prepares for his journey, and celebrates his 9th birthday. Alice gives him a glove with healing magic. Vincent gives him a ring that alerts Alice if Arthur's in danger. Adam gives him a scroll that can send voice messages home. Arthur is touched by all the gifts and promises to stay safe. That night, he packs up. He's sad to leave, but determined to grow stronger. Arthur's first step toward becoming a real adventurer, getting registered. So, he and Jasmine head over to the Xyrus Adventurers Guild. Arthur has no clue how the process works, but after signing up, a guild staff member leads him away. Jasmine seems calm, so Arthur figures things must be going fine. He wears a mask to hide his identity, partly to protect his family from enemies he might make. They're introduced to Caspian Bladeheart, the guild master, who tells Arthur he'll need to take a written exam and have his mana assessed. But since Jasmine is vouching for him and Caspian knows her dad, he's willing to bend the rules. Caspian also says Arthur doesn't need to give his real name, just an alias. Arthur goes with Note. Yeah, just Note. Cool and mysterious. They're led to the assessment arena, and on the way, Arthur asks if Jasmine is close with Caspian. She shrugs it off, saying her dad is the one with all the connections. In the arena, they walk in on a magical duel. A young water mage named Diane is being tested. She's fast, but not very aware of her surroundings, so the instructor easily outsmarts her and bonks her on the head. Still, she gets a solid C rank, which is great for someone her age. Next up is a Liga Knight. Before he even lifts a finger, the instructors quietly talk, then just hand him a B rank. Everyone watching is like, huh? Then comes Lucas Wykes, the poster boy for spoiled, arrogant brats. Despite his attitude, he's powerful for his age. He summons a huge flame spell, but completely loses control and nearly sets himself on fire. The instructor saves him and gently tries to give him advice, but Lucas is too proud to listen. He tries to sneak attack her mid-speech, but Arthur blocks the attack just in time. Now it's obvious this kid is a menace, so the instructor demotes him to D rank out of spite and safety. Lucas, of course, throws a tantrum and threatens to tell his dad. So she grabs him by the collar and drags him out like a misbehaving toddler. Finally, it's Arthur's turn. He decides not to hold back anymore. His energy is so intense that the instructor instantly goes on alert. Then Caspian strolls in and says he'll handle Arthur's assessment himself. Yes, the double a rank guild master. Arthur's surprised, but excited. Unfortunately, the actual fight is skipped. Boo. But in the end, Arthur officially earns a B rank. Step 1 complete. Later, the instructors talk with Caspian, wondering why so many kids are getting high ranks. Caspian explains that after a recent cultural exchange, some kids from other races were allowed to become adventurers here. Lucas is one of them. Despite being an elf, his family, the Wykes, are human, which suggests he might have been born from an elf slave. As for Liga, no one knows much, but he's backed by someone powerful and represents the Dwarf Kingdom. Arthur, though, is a total mystery. Caspian knows nothing about his real identity, but judging by his sword skills and the fact that Jasmine is his guardian, he knows Arthur's going to be something special. As they leave, Arthur realizes he's been so focused on magic that he neglected his swordsmanship. Time to balance both. Just then, he bumps into Eliga, who warns him not to interfere in other people's matches again could get him targeted. But he also admits he would have done the same. Of course, Lucas barges into their conversation, uninvited. Arthur tells him to buzz off, calling him a rule-breaking brat. Lucas grabs Arthur by the collar, but since everyone's watching, he chickens out and leaves. Jasmine then leads Arthur to a field called the Beast Grazing Plains, a peaceful place where newbies train. But that's not their real destination. She says they have to run for a full day to get there. Arthur's surprised at how fast Jasmine really is. Turns out, rank adventurers are no joke. He also reflects on his earlier fight with Caspian. He honestly thought he could win, but Caspian made it look easy. Arthur's starting to realize he still has a long way to go. Suddenly, there's a crash in the woods. A wild, monster boar charges out and starts attacking nearby adventurers. Jasmine immediately grabs Arthur and runs. They shouldn't be here. Something must have gone wrong. They soon discover a wrecked carriage and figure out someone was probably transporting the boar, which then escaped. Arthur wonders why anyone would try to catch that thing alive. The boar charges at them, and they dodge its attacks, including a nasty stab attempt with its bizarrely long tongue. Jasmine tells Arthur to run while she takes it on. She goes in hard with wind magic and slashes it a few times, but loses her balance. Arthur catches her just in time. She quickly gets back up to defend others, and Arthur waits for the right moment. When the boar charges again, he ignites his sword and finishes it with a clean strike. Afterward, Jasmine feels guilty for failing to protect him. She reveals she became an adventurer to escape her noble family, the Flamesworths, who disowned her for using wind instead of fire magic. Arthur, furious, calls her family idiots. No element is better than another. Jasmine laughs, touched by his anger. He explains he was also treated as worthless in his past life, and she says her pain helped her grow thanks to friends like the Twin Horns Party. She asks if Arthur is changing too. He's unsure, but thinking about all he's been through, he vows to keep growing stronger to protect those he cares about. The story dives into Arthur's past, and let's just say, he wasn't exactly a nice guy before. In his previous life, he was feared, respected, and basically the strongest person alive, a true king. But all that power came with a dark side. He made brutal choices, took countless lives, and built a legacy soaked in blood. And in the end, he got a second chance, reincarnated into a new life where he could choose a different path. Back in the present, Jasmine calls Arthur for a mission. As they walk, they spot a carriage and go over the details. A village near the Beast Glades has gone silent, and Arthur thinks it's best to investigate. When Jasmine asks about the mission's priority, Arthur keeps it simple. Survive. No heroics, no unnecessary fights, just stay alive. They plan things out, with Sylvia staying behind to train while Arthur promises to call her when needed. But as they move forward, Arthur notices something strange: tons of footprints leading into the village, but almost none coming out. Yeah, not a good sign. When they arrive, the place is eerily quiet. No destruction, no signs of battle, just silence. Inside one of the houses, they find crystals scattered everywhere, and the worst part? People are trapped inside them, frozen. Suddenly, they spot a terrified girl. She explains that she was out gathering herbs, and when she came back, everyone was already like this. Before she can say more, boom, a thread grabs her and drags her away. In second, she's frozen too. At this point, Arthur considers retreating. Smart move, honestly. Meanwhile, a mysterious group of hooded figures appears, talking about how they don't like the alliance between humans, elves, and dwarves. They'd rather let chaos run its course and maybe even make things worse. Back to Arthur, he learns the enemy is an Arachne, one of the worst beasts you could run into. Jasmine admits she's fought it multiple times and barely survived once with help. These things are no joke. Super tough armor. Magic barely works. Only special mages can undo their curse. Oh, and they hate sunlight, which makes it even weirder that it's here. Arthur decides the safest option is to retreat and call for backup. Too bad the Arachne shows up behind them and freezes Jasmine instantly. Now it's just Arthur. He remembers everything: his past life, his strength, his battles, and instead of running, he fights. At first, it's rough. His attacks barely do damage, so he powers up, even removing his limiter and coating his blade in flames. Still not enough. So he switches tactics: earth magic to launch it, stones to strike it, lightning to push it back. Slowly, he starts gaining ground. But the real turning point: an old sword technique from his past life. For a split second, it's like time freezes, and with one precise strike, he finally defeats the monster. Victory, but at a cost. Arthur is completely drained. After the fight, his little companion shows up and checks on him after casually eating the monster. By the way, no loot left. They manage to save Jasmine, who is not happy that Arthur didn't run like they planned. He apologizes, admitting he acted on impulse. Still, she understands. Curious, she asks how he pulled it off. Arthur gives a simple answer. It's just power he needs to survive, but not power he actually wants. What he really wants? Just enough strength to protect the people he cares about. That thought hits hard, especially as he remembers being separated from his family because he was too weak. It's something he still regrets, but he's chosen to move forward without dwelling on the past. Jasmine, clearly touched and a little flustered, tells him not to risk his life for her. Arthur's response? Too late. She's already important to him. Yeah, she didn't know how to react to that one. Later, they return to the guild. When Arthur says he defeated an arachne, people are understandably skeptical until he shows proof. Even then, one guy tries to downplay it because of course there's always that guy. After everything, they head back home. His father is excited to hear about the adventure, while his mother is more focused on the fact that her son almost got himself killed. Classic parents. Arthur's dad then jumps in, saying even they struggled against creatures like that back in the day. Jasmine backs this up, admitting they've barely survived fights with arachnes before. So naturally, the big question comes up. How did you beat it, alone? Arthur explains it pretty calmly. He noticed the creature was insanely tough, so instead of attacking randomly, he focused everything on one weak point. On top of that, he used his magic smartly, basically trying to damage it from the inside out. Sounds simple, but yeah, not exactly beginner-level stuff. Then Alice calls Arthur over. And just like that, the mood shifts. No more casual talking, this is serious now. She reminds him that he promised not to get involved in dangerous situations. Arthur tries to defend himself, saying that being an adventurer and avoiding danger don't exactly go hand in hand. Alice isn't having it. A promise is a promise. Arthur lowers his head and apologizes. He knows he messed up. But then plot twist, Alice turns to Jasmine. Now she's in trouble too. Alice wants to know exactly what happened, pointing out that arachnes are the kind of monsters you're supposed to run away from, not fight. Arthur tries to step in and defend Jasmine, but his mom shuts that down instantly. Right now, she's talking to Jasmine. Jasmine sincerely apologizes, admitting things got out of control. And then, Alice breaks down in tears, saying she promised to protect Arthur and teach him properly. Arthur's dad quickly steps in to calm things down before it turns into a full emotional meltdown. He just asks Arthur to listen to Jasmine next time, no arguing, no hero moves. Arthur agrees without saying a word. Jasmine then mentions she's already reported the strange village incident to the guild, since clearly something weird is going on. Arthur's dad nods and says he'll warn the others too. Trying to lighten the mood, Arthur's dad suggests that, hey, maybe they should also celebrate a little. After all, Arthur did survive. Alice takes a deep breath and eventually agrees. Soon after, Arthur and Jasmine are back to training, going all out, no holding back. Blow after blow, they push each other, both clearly determined not to repeat past mistakes. While fighting, Arthur reflects on everything: his past life, his regrets, and the promise he made to protect the people he cares about. He knows one thing for sure. This isn't about pride anymore. It's about getting strong enough so no one he loves gets hurt again. After training, Arthur suddenly feels something off. A strange breeze passes by, catching his attention. He pauses, looks around, and then casually asks about Tesha, because even after all the fights, drama, and near-death experiences, There are still things and people that matter just as much. Next day, Tesha and her squad are chilling in a diner, trying to figure out their next move. After some thinking, Tesha casually drops the plan they're going boar hunting. Yeah, in human territory. Naturally, everyone's a bit uneasy about that. But after going back and forth, they basically go, "Well, guess we're doing this," and start heading out. But the moment Tesha steps out, boom, some random adventurer tries to trip her. Big mistake. She instantly kicks him away like it's nothing. Now the whole diner turns hostile. Adventurers start gearing up for a fight, but Tesha's team isn't here for drama. They throw up a water wall, trap everyone inside, and make a clean escape. A carriage shows up, they hop in, and for a while, things are actually peaceful. Too peaceful, because soon enough, bandits on horses pull up and try to attack. Tesha's team handles them like it's a warm-up round, no stress, easy win. But here's the bigger problem. Elves, humans, and dwarves? Yeah, they technically have peace thanks to a treaty, but only on paper. In reality, everyone still low-key hates each other. So as Tesha's group travels, more humans keep trying to capture them. Somewhere far away, a mysterious hooded guy is literally watching all this on a magic map like it's live TV. At this point, the group finally connects the dots. Elves are basically high-value targets. That's why everyone's after them. Still, Tesha refuses to quit. She suggests ditching the carriage and continuing on foot. Faye, however, starts worrying, what if humans just reject them no matter what? Tesha? Not convinced. Until they reach a village and immediately get kicked out just for being elves. Meanwhile, in another diner, Arthur is quietly observing Lucas and realizes something weird. Lucas comes from one of the strongest human families, yet he has elf blood? Things get even more awkward when Lucas starts teasing Elijah about his connection to the dwarf royal family. Elijah calmly fires back, pointing out Lucas is part elf too. Lucas then proudly explains his family's goal: create insanely powerful mages. Arthur jumps in, saying the family accepts elves for their mana control, whether that's progressive thinking or just power-hungry ambition. To prove his point, Lucas casually summons a fireball and declares he'll become the strongest mage on the entire continent. Arthur's response? Cool. Good luck. Which completely throws Lucas off. Arthur then drops the real twist. He's not even aiming to be the strongest anymore. Different goals now. Both Lucas and Elijah are left speechless. Soon after, Jasmine shows up with a new quest. Long journey ahead. Arthur? He's actually excited. Back to Tesha, she's trying to gather info about the Mana Beast, but no one wants to help. She gets so frustrated, she starts crying. Faye's like, honestly, elves would do the same to humans. Then suddenly bonk, an acorn hits Tesha's head. She looks up, ready to scold some kids, but surprised they actually give useful info. The boar's coming from the east. Meanwhile, those shady hooded figures reveal their plan. Tesha isn't important for who she is now, but for who she'll become, the princess of the Elenwar kingdom. If she dies in human territory, boom, there goes the peace treaty. So yeah, they're planning to eliminate her. Right on cue, a massive mana beast shows up and attacks. Tesha's team barely dodges and immediately fights back, throwing everything they've got at it. After a full combo attack, they're like, okay, that has to be it. Nope. The thing is still standing. Worse, it adapts. Their magic suddenly does nothing. Turns out, this whole fight was set up by those hooded guys. The goal? Get Tesha killed and start a war. Now the team switches from fighting to pure survival mode, running, dodging, barely keeping up. In the chaos, Vaya gets hit by debris and goes flying straight toward the boar. Bad timing. Luckily, Faye clutches it with water magic and pulls her to safety just in time. He suggests retreating. But Tesha, she's not done yet. She comes up with a plan. Step 1, Faye plays bait. He hits the boar and gets it chasing him. Step 2, Vaya uses earth magic to open a hole beneath it. The boar drops and trapped. Tesha finally relaxes and lets out a breath, thinking, okay, that nightmare is over. Out of nowhere, the Mana Beast bursts out of the ground like it took that personally and charges straight at Faye and Vaya. Tesha reacts instantly, using wind magic to yank both of them out of danger just before impact. Clean save. For a moment, she pauses and thinks, yeah, saving my teammates, that's exactly what Arthur would do. And just like that, her brain goes full flashback mode. Memories of Arthur start flooding in, and she kinda zones out mid-battle. Luckily, Faye notices and pulls her back to safety with water magic before she turns into boar food. Faye and Vaya both suggest the obvious. Let's retreat, please. But Tesha, still locked in. There's just one small problem. She's completely out of mana. No spells, no attacks. But then she remembers a trick Arthur taught her. So she calms down, focuses, and starts pulling mana from the environment around her. The beast charges again. This time, Tesha doesn't dodge. She steps forward and throws one punch. Boom. The monster drops instantly. Faye and Vaya just stand there like, did she just one-shot it? Turns out, she used the mana to strengthen her body from the inside, basically turning herself into a human weapon. Meanwhile, the Hooded Watchers are observing everything like evil analysts. Their conclusion? Yeah, she's way stronger than expected. Next time, we bring something worse. After the fight, Tesha and her team go back to the village to report the good news. The chief's response? Absolutely nothing. No thanks. No appreciation. Not even a nod. Tesha is clearly annoyed, but Faye just shrugs it off. Don't expect kindness from humans. But then, the same kids from earlier show up and thank them for saving the village, which honestly means more than anything the chief could have said. Meanwhile, Virion is talking with Cynthia and mentions he's been watching Tesha. He admits she came dangerously close to losing control in that fight. Cynthia isn't surprised, she is his granddaughter after all. But Virion adds something interesting. As much as he'd like to take credit, her strength really comes from the people around her, especially Arthur. Later, Tesha and her group sit down at a diner again, winding down. Tesha mentions that she and Faye will be heading back to Xyrus soon. They ask Vaya what she'll do, and she casually says, "Oh, I'll go to Xyrus too. Would be nice to see Arthur again." Tesha: "Wait, how do you know Arthur?" Vaya explains they've met before. Now Tesha's even more surprised because she hasn't seen Arthur at all since he left. Mostly because she never even knew where to find him in Xyrus. Not long after, Tesha finds herself standing right in front of Arthur's family mansion. And suddenly, she's nervous. Like, really nervous. She's overthinking what to say, how to act, basically having a full internal crisis. And then, Alice and Elena come running at her out of nowhere. Tesha panics instantly and just runs away. Yep, after all that build-up, she flees, still trying to figure out where Arthur actually is. Arthur wakes up face down on a random island like he just rage quit life and respawned somewhere new. Drenched, confused, and definitely not having a good day. He gets up and starts running around, trying to figure out where he is and how he ended up there. Then it hits him the memory of traveling by canoe with Jasmine, followed by a sudden, monstrous tsunami that split them apart like a bad plot twist. Panic kicks in immediately, and Arthur wastes no time searching for her. While wandering, he stumbles upon Lucas and Elijah, both equally soaked and looking like they lost a fight with the ocean. The three quickly exchange stories. Arthur explains his mission from the Helia family to capture a mana beast before the storm wrecked everything. Elijah reveals he was investigating mysteriously disappearing fishing boats when he got caught in the same disaster. And Lucas? Well, Lucas says nothing, but it's painfully obvious he also got humbled by the storm and just refuses to admit it. With that cleared up, they shift focus to survival and agree that escaping the island means finding or building a boat. Still, Arthur can't fully concentrate, his mind stuck on Jasmine. Deep down, he's certain she survived too. Using telepathy, he contacts Sylvie and asks her to search the surrounding sea for any sign of Jasmine. Meanwhile, far away on another part of the shore, Jasmine is doing exactly what you'd expect, calling out for Arthur with no response. Eventually, blaming herself for everything. Her thoughts drift back to a conversation with Reynolds, who once warned her that missions are often far more dangerous than advertised, either due to underestimation or because someone might be deliberately sabotaging things. Knowing Arthur wouldn't stop adventuring, Reynolds instead asked Jasmine to watch over him and keep him safe. she promised, and now, that promise feels like it's slipping through her fingers. Trying to pull herself together, Jasmine resumes searching and soon runs into two of Lucas's guards, who are also stranded and emotionally falling apart after being separated from him. Back at Arthur's side, Lucas casually pulls out camping gear from a dimensional ring, leaving Arthur stunned since it's his first time seeing one in action. They set up camp, but food is scarce, so Arthur heads into the forest, gathers fish and mushrooms, and hands them over to Lucas to cook using fire magic. At first, Lucas absolutely butchers the job: burnt fish, undercooked fish, basically culinary crimes, but after some trial and error, he manages to produce something edible. The three sit around the fire and eat, and for a brief moment, the chaos fades. For Arthur, it feels strangely comforting, reminding him of simpler times with his family. The next day, Arthur shares what he discovered while gathering food. There's no one else on the island, and the wrecked boats they arrived on are completely useless. He lays out two options: wait for rescue, trusting that Jasmine will find him, or attempt to leave on their own since the mainland isn't too far. But Lucas immediately shuts both ideas down. Pulling out a scroll, he reveals his actual target, a mana beast capable of controlling the weather. According to him, as long as that creature is alive, escaping by sea is basically suicide. Convinced the beast is somewhere on the island, Lucas declares he'll burn it to ashes and starts heading out like a man on a mission. Arthur stops him, suggesting they stick together for a better chance. At the same time, Sylvie finally locates Jasmine and tells her Arthur is alive. Relief washes over her, but there's no time to celebrate. She sets off immediately to find him. Back with the group, they arrive near the mana beast's location and carefully prepare their attack. Lucas, of course, makes the first move, launching a fireball into the cave like he's trying to speedrun the fight. Unfortunately, it backfires, literally sending debris flying everywhere. Elijah quickly saves him by raising an earth wall. Lucas, still clinging to his pride, briefly assumes he already won, until the cave starts collapsing and the mana beast finally emerges. It wastes no time firing an energy blast, which Arthur blocks with his sword. Lucas panics for a split second but forces himself to stay composed, not wanting Arthur to see him crack. Arthur charges in, attacking with rapid sword strikes while Elijah supports him, but the beast's regeneration makes the effort useless. Thinking fast, Arthur calls for a switch in positions. Elijah joins him on the front lines, while Lucas is pushed into a support role at a distance, much to everyone's silent agreement that this is probably for the best. Arthur lands a clean sword strike, and at the exact same moment, Elijah summons a series of earth spikes that shoot up and pin parts of the beast in place. Thinking quickly, they use those spikes to fill in and lock the damaged areas. That's when Arthur notices something crucial. While the beast is trapped like this, its regeneration completely stalls. Realizing they found the winning formula, they repeat the strategy. Arthur strikes. Elijah seals the wounds with earth spikes, and this time, it works. The mana beast finally goes down. Arthur and Elijah celebrate with a quick high five, but Lucas, of course, claims he carried the entire fight. Unfortunately, their victory celebration is cut short when the beast suddenly starts moving again. It's not dead after all. Arthur charges back in, already exhausted and wondering how much longer he can keep this up. Just as things start looking rough, Jasmine makes a dramatic entrance, sprinting across the island at full speed after spotting Arthur in the distance. She pushes herself even faster and arrives at the perfect moment, right as Arthur is about to strike again. Without hesitation, she steps in and finishes the mana beast with a single, powerful blow. Slightly humiliating for everyone else, she immediately rushes to Arthur's side and asks if he's okay, while Elijah and Lucas just stand there, completely stunned at how effortlessly she handled what they struggled with. Later, as the sun sets, Jasmine apologizes to Arthur, blaming herself for everything that happened and for letting things get so dangerous. Arthur brushes it off, telling her he's just glad she made it in time. Meanwhile, chaos continues in a different form. Elijah and Lucas are now chasing Sylvie, who has casually taken the mana core from the beast. Despite their efforts, they fail to catch her, and before they can do anything, Sylvie simply eats the mana core like it's a snack, ending that chase instantly. Elsewhere in Xyrus, Tessa meets up with her party and admits she still hasn't managed to meet Arthur. They keep missing each other somehow. Faye and Via begin to suspect this isn't just bad luck, but that Tessa is actually nervous about seeing him. She immediately gets defensive, stands up, and walks away. As it turns out, they're absolutely right. Tessa really is nervous. After some inner pep talk, she gathers the courage to go to Arthur's house. But when she finally gets there, she freezes at the door, unsure if she should go in. And just as she's about to decide, she runs straight into Reynolds. Completely embarrassed, she panics and runs off, leaving Reynolds standing there, confused about what just happened. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a group of hooded figures huddle over a magical map, carefully searching for a powerful beast, one strong enough for what they ominously call the Day of Reckoning. Back at the guild, Arthur and Jasmine are casually walking out after their mission. Arthur, still a bit impressed, brings up how insanely fast Jasmine showed up during their fight earlier. Jasmine brushes it off like it's nothing, explaining she just channels wind mana into her feet to boost her speed, basically turning herself into a human jet. Just then, a tall blonde guy walks up and greets Jasmine. Arthur has no clue who this guy is, but Jasmine quickly introduces him as Brow, and a rank adventurer. The guy clearly enjoys being recognized and wastes no time getting to the point. He's got information about some valuable treasure and wants Jasmine's help. Arthur watches closely and realizes this guy is on the same level as Jasmine, which explains why he feels oddly uncomfortable seeing him stand so close to her. Later, Arthur heads to the training grounds to spar with Adam. He recalls their last fight and wonders how much has changed. Turns out quite a lot. Adam still has the upper hand and dominates most of the fight, but he admits Arthur has improved a lot. Arthur takes the compliment like a champ, even though he just got humbled a few times. Afterward, he's given a brutal training schedule. Archery, earth magic, wind magic, you name it. Arthur doesn't complain. He's locked in. Meanwhile, Reynolds is acting restless, clearly worried about Arthur. Jasmine notices and suggests they go check on him, but Reynolds quickly shuts that down and changes the topic. Instead, Jasmine asks about Brow. Reynolds explains that Brow is known for taking on the most dangerous roles and somehow surviving them all without a scratch. Calm, easygoing, but deadly. Even Reynolds admits fighting him wouldn't be easy. When Jasmine mentions Brow invited her on a quest, Reynolds finds it suspicious, especially since Brow already has a team. Turns out, he's been inviting multiple adventurers. They consider possible reasons, but Reynolds advises not to jump to conclusions. Jasmine decides to investigate on her own, and before she leaves, Reynolds tells her to keep an eye on Arthur. After an exhausting day, Arthur and the others are completely drained. Of course, that's when Reynolds decides it's a great idea to spar with him for bonding. Luckily, Alice and Elena step in and shut that down before Arthur collapses on the spot. Reynolds is left slightly annoyed. Arthur then notices Jasmine is gone. Reynolds tells him she had something to take care of and stays behind to spend time with the family. Arthur says it's fine, but internally, he feels a bit out of place. These warm family moments are still unfamiliar to him, and he quietly wonders how long it'll take before they start to feel normal. Elsewhere, Lucas is frustrated at the guild because there are barely any quests available. Due to recent deaths, the guild is being extra cautious. Lucas wanted to rack up achievements before joining the academy, but now that plan is falling apart. That's when Shun drops some interesting information. Brow is secretly recruiting for a raid on an undiscovered high-ranking dungeon, completely off the books. Lucas's followers immediately warn him it sounds dangerous, but Lucas, he doesn't care. He shuts them down and decides he's joining anyway. As he walks off, Shun's expression makes it very clear. This is a setup. On a lighter note, Arthur goes shopping with Alice to buy clothes for Elena. It's supposed to be a fun outing, but Arthur looks like he'd rather fight a monster than pick outfits. Alice notices and tells him to loosen up. But internally, Arthur is already planning his next battle instead of enjoying family time. At the same time, Tessa is sitting with her friends at a cafe, sipping tea and missing Arthur. Despite being so close multiple times, they still haven't met. Her friends joke that fate is keeping them apart, but Tessa isn't buying it, she just misses him too much. And then, fate strikes again. As Arthur walks nearby with his family, Tessa finally has a chance to see him, but a carriage passes by at the worst possible moment. By the time it's gone, Arthur is already out of sight. Yeah, fate really said, not today. Later, Arthur visits a mystic shop looking for a dimensional ring, but everything is way out of his budget. He bumps into Helen and Angela, browses a bit, then decides to come back when he's richer. Of course, Alice and Elena catch him sneaking off and immediately call him out. Arthur apologizes and rejoins them like a guilty kid. By the end of the day, Arthur is completely drained. He collapses onto his bed and complains to Sylvie about how exhausting all this family bonding is. He admits he cares about them, but he's just not used to this kind of life. Meanwhile, Sylvie is already excited for the next adventure. Arthur explains that adventurers are currently on break, so no missions for now. That's when it hits him almost 2 years have passed since he became an adventurer, and he was only supposed to do this until he joined Xyrus Academy. With that deadline approaching, he realizes his next quest might be his last. Curious, he goes to find Jasmine to talk about it, only to walk in on Alice and Elena dressing her up in a beautiful outfit. Yeah, not exactly the serious conversation he was expecting. Jasmine is already embarrassed, and it gets worse when Arthur sees her all dressed up. He casually tells her she looks cute, but that's enough to send her running away in panic. Later, Arthur finds her again to talk about Brow's offer. Jasmine reveals she's been investigating and found it suspicious Brow is organizing the mission alone without his usual team, which raises a big red flag. She thinks they shouldn't accept. But from Arthur's expression, she can tell he's considering it anyway. Arthur realizes that avoiding danger won't change anything. Normally, he'd settle for safe, boring quests, but if this is their last mission together, he wants it to actually matter. Jasmine understands. Ending things with a simple herb collecting quest would feel pointless, so despite her concerns, she agrees to join him. The next day, they prepare to leave as their family sees them off. Reynolds gives Arthur one key advice: no matter what happens, just come back alive with Jasmine, everything else doesn't matter. They travel through a teleportation tunnel and arrive in an open field. Arthur says goodbye to Sylvie, promising to return, and then he and Jasmine move forward. At the same time, the hooded man completes a summoning ritual, bringing forth a creature too powerful to control. Instead of worrying, he's confident, believing Arthur and Jasmine have no chance against it. By the next day, Arthur and Jasmine reach the meeting point, where a full squad is already waiting. Elijah and Lucas are there, along with 4 new faces: Reginald, Creel, Oliver, and Samantha. Then the man of the hour finally shows up, late. Bald casually apologizes and immediately claims leadership of the mission. Smooth. He quickly notices Arthur and Jasmine carrying bags like beginners and asks if they don't own dimensional rings. Awkward. They admit they don't, but Elijah steps in like a lifesaver and offers to store their stuff in his own ring. Problem solved. With that, Bald tells everyone to move out, and the group heads straight into the dungeon. As they go deeper, Arthur starts feeling a bit uneasy. He suddenly realizes he's walking into a dark cave with a bunch of people he barely knows, all because of Bald's invitation. Thinking back, Bald had originally sold this mission as a treasure hunt for a powerful magic stone hidden at the lowest level. Supposedly, it can boost mana and act as a crazy energy source. Add in the fact that Elijah and Lucas recommended them, and Arthur figured, why not? Plus, he wanted to make sure nobody got hurt. Soon, the group reaches the entrance to the lowest floor. At first glance, the place looks like your average dungeon, nothing too scary. Bald mentions he scouted ahead, which impresses everyone, until he admits he didn't actually make it that far. Yeah, confidence drops a little. Still, Reginald shrugs it off, thinking a strong group like theirs will manage just fine. Bald, however, warns them it won't be that easy. Turns out, the monsters here don't stay dead. Kill them once, and they'll just pop back up like it's nothing. Even worse, they don't drop anything useful. No loot, no reward, just endless respawns. That's why this place is called the Tomb of Terror. So the plan is simple: don't waste mana unless you have to. Of course, things go wrong immediately. A swarm of bat-like monsters suddenly surrounds them from all sides. Everyone jumps into action, but Lucas decides he wants to be the main character and unleashes a massive fire attack that wipes them all out in one shot. Cool moment until Bald immediately scolds him for wasting a ton of mana. And right on cue, the bats start reviving anyway. realizing fighting is useless, the group moves on. Eventually, they reach a cliff, and Elijah uses earth magic to create a staircase so everyone can safely climb down. Not bad teamwork. As they continue, Bald points out a passage leading deeper. But the moment they reach it, boom, Samantha accidentally triggers a hidden trap, and sharp rock spikes shoot straight at her. Arthur reacts instantly, saving her at the last second and smashing the incoming spikes like it's no big deal. Now Reginald is furious. Traps? Bald never mentioned traps. Bald just stands there, clearly shaken, because, yeah, he didn't know either. That's when we learn the truth. Bald didn't actually scout this place properly. He was hired by some shady hooded guy who gave him a map and told him the dungeon was easy, no traps, no dangerous monsters. Just grab the stone and get paid. Bald trusted him and brought a team along, without checking anything himself. And he keeps that little detail to himself. Instead, he tells everyone to stay alert and keeps moving like nothing's wrong. As they go deeper, things get worse. The temperature suddenly rises, and Creel and Samantha start feeling the heat literally. Then steam bursts out of holes in the walls, turning the place into a deadly sauna. Everyone looks at Bald for answers, and he basically says, "I have no idea." Yeah, not what you want to hear from your leader. Reginald finally snaps and grabs Bald, demanding the truth. But before things can escalate, a giant worm bursts out of the ground like a nightmare. Creel reacts quickly and blocks it, saving everyone for now. With no more room for lies, Bald finally confesses everything. He admits he only followed the client's map and had no idea about the traps, steam, or this giant monster. The group realizes they've been thrown into something way more dangerous than promised. Most of them think the Mana Beast just appeared out of nowhere, but Arthur isn't buying it. He can already tell this dungeon was always like this. Someone set them up. Things take another turn. Oliver quietly tells Samantha it's the perfect chance to ditch everyone and grab the treasure themselves. Without waiting, he runs off, dragging her along. Arthur and the others warn them to come back, but Oliver refuses, too greedy to listen. Arthur rushes forward and manages to pull Samantha back just in time. Arthur shouts for Oliver to get inside, but he's too stubborn. Big mistake. The eruption hits, and Oliver is burned alive in seconds. After it's over, Arthur walks over to what's left of him. He's clearly shaken, but still picks up Oliver's magic stone and hands it to Samantha. And just when you think things can't get worse, that same giant worm shows up again. The group doesn't hold back. They throw everything they've got at its spells, attacks, teamwork, the whole package. But the worm, it just refuses to die, like it's built different. After tanking all that damage, it casually retreats back into its hole. Reginald is furious that it escaped again, but Bald surprisingly calls it a win because at least now they still have a chance to run for their lives. But Arthur quickly pieces something together, and it's not good. The worm was never trying to kill them. It was just buying time for the next steam eruption. And right on cue, the dungeon starts heating up again. Everyone panics and tells Lucas to put up another barrier. But this time, Lucas completely freezes. With seconds left, Arthur jumps in without hesitation and shields him. Thanks to that quick save, the rest of the group manages to escape the eruption. Everyone survives, but not without a cost. Bald loses one of his arms while protecting Samantha. After the chaos, Samantha rushes to help Bald, doing her best to stop the bleeding and keep him stable. Meanwhile, in the most random timing possible, Creel walks up to Arthur and hands him a homemade sandwich. Arthur takes a bite and admits it's actually really good. Priorities, I guess. But the calm doesn't last. Lucas and Bald start arguing, and it gets heated fast. Lucas blames Bald for everything: the lies, the traps, the mess they're in. Bald fires back, saying if Lucas hadn't frozen when they needed that barrier, he'd still have his arm. Yeah, that one hits hard. Before things spiral further, Arthur steps in and shuts it down. He points out that blaming each other won't fix anything right now. Then he calmly asks Bald the real question: do they give up, or keep going? Bald lowers his head and finally owns up to everything. He apologizes for lying and putting everyone in danger, but still begs them to continue. He doesn't want losing his arm to be for nothing. Jasmine immediately says, "Nope, we're going back." But then reality kicks in. Going back through this nightmare might be just as dangerous as moving forward. So, after a moment of hesitation, they choose to keep going. At that point, Bald does something unexpected. He steps down and suggests Arthur should lead the group instead. Everyone agrees. After everything that's happened, Arthur has been the calmest, smartest, and most reliable one there. No debate needed, he's the new leader now. With Arthur in charge, the group pushes deeper into the dungeon. Eventually, they reach a massive frozen door. Suspicious, definitely, but they open it anyway. And on the other side, they find something completely unexpected, an icy chamber filled with green vegetation.